first time being Toastmaster in an online setting, and hopefully I'll do a good job. The job of the Toastmasters is facilitate the meeting, make sure you have a good time, MC the meeting, and introduce the various aspects of our meeting. Our meeting has three different parts. First is the prepared speakers. Second will be our table topic session, and third will be our evaluations. We'll get into more detail about those three items a little bit later. But to have a very successful meeting, I need some role players, and tonight is no different. I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by a team of all-stars, first of which is the timer, and tonight being performed by Miss Asel, excuse if I get the name wrong, Boysanova.
You did good, thank you. My role is a timer to track the time of speakers. So I have these three colors. I'll be showing green on minimum time, yellow on between minimum and maximum time, and red on maximum time. And if you go over 30 seconds, I'll be showing this. So that's it. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Great, thank you, Also, for your explanation. Our next role is the role of the odd counter tonight, being performed by Mr. Mike Walsh. Mike, can you please explain the role of the odd counter?
Sure. The role of the odd counter is to keep track of those words that we use as fillers, where we might want to maybe put in a just like that. And also when we want to maintain the rhythm of the speech. So I'll be keeping track of that, and I'm happy to say that except for that one ah, there's 0 ahs so far.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Our next role is the role of the grammarian tonight, being performed by Miss Joy. Joy stepped up last minute, so thank you very much. And please share with us the word of the day.
The word of the day is quaint. It means attractively unusual or old-fashioned. And as the grammarian, I will be listening to your use of English language, but I will be listening in a special way because English is not my first language at all. So I will be listening to whether it's clear and understandable. Back to Mr. Toastmaster.
Excellent. Thank you, Joy, for stepping in the role. We have a chat monitor here since we're an online club. Someone looks at our chat and to make sure that we're having some lively banter going back and forth. We did have a change to the printed agenda, and tonight our chat monitor will be Mr. Andy Byrne. Andy, if you can quickly explain the role of the chat monitor, please.
The role of the chat monitor is to monitor what kind of conversation is taking place in the chat box. Hopefully we will focus on the speakers and not be chatting away while they're speaking. But other than that etiquette, we will see what people have to say in the tenor of the meeting and how it's impacted them. I will be called upon for a report, and I'll be succinct.
Great, thank you, Andy. Our final role is the role of the vote counter, tonight being performed by Miss Antoinette Trim. Antoinette, can you please explain the role of the vote counter? Please.
I will be, should I say, gathering all the votes for the respective evaluators and the respective speakers as well, and I will put it on the Zoom group chat.
Excellent, thank you, Antoinette. I think we're on time because we had such good. Oh, Watcher. Oh, one more. That's not on the agenda. Oh, I totally skipped over the Watcher. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Hey, there's so many.
Maybe, I know there are so many. And maybe if I watched a little more closely, John Quick can teach me a thing or two. John Quick, please explain the role of the Watcher.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'll be watching all the video screens. I'm going to proactively message privately things that I see. Then if there's any major things to share with everyone at the end, I'll put that in the final report. And I'll be watching you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Oh boy. I'm scared. Well, as I mentioned, we have three sections to our meeting. The first are our prepared speakers. Tonight we have three very seasoned and polished speakers tonight who have stepped up very bravely and came up to the lectern, our virtual lectern, to come and speak to us tonight. I want to confirm our speakers and our evaluation pairings, just so there's no confusion. Speaker 1 is Mr. Nick Lakhani, being evaluated by Ms. Lois Margolin. Speaker 2, Dr. Jacinta Watkins-Lamontagne, being evaluated by Mr. Lewis Brown. And speaker number 3, Don Tiger McCandy, being interviewed by Tracy Kawa. Is there any changes to that? Nope, great. Well, let's go into speaker number 1. Speaker number 1 is Nick Lakhani. He is presenting Engaging Humor Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, Evaluation and Feedback, the second speech. The title of the speech is Speaking English Made Easy. Having first learned English in the East African country of Uganda, Nick remembers the adjustments he had to make to speak better English after he moved to the United Kingdom. The scenario today is that you are a group of people at Nick's online event who already speak English well, but are interested in improving one of 3 things: pronunciation, conversational English, or 3, English for Business and Technology. With his speech titled Speaking English Made Easy, please give a warm welcome to Nick Lakhani.
Mr. Toastmaster, thank you for the introduction there. Why should you change the way you speak English? Well, the simple answer is you shouldn't. You already speak good English. But there are some reasons why somebody may want to. This first speech is about a little bit about my life and why I had to change the way I spoke English. Then you'll be able to go to another video on the website where you can actually get more information about what I can offer you. First of all, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I was born in Uganda, but I'm actually Indian. So what that meant was that growing up, I spoke Swahili, which is the East African language, Gujarati, which is my Indian language, and English. I'm not confused at all. And growing up there, it was fun, it was hot, it was fantastic. It was almost like paradise. And then things changed. Idi Amin came to power, and he decided all Indians need to go home. But Uganda was my home. Where am I going to go? Lucky for us, we actually had British passports. So we came to London. Fantastic. It was a great adventure. And when you're a kid, it's okay. One night you're in Uganda, another night you're in London. You know how it is. What actually happened then is that we stayed. It wasn't a holiday. It wasn't 2 weeks. We stayed. And then it got cold. And then we had to go to school, a new school. Everybody turned around and pointed and said, "You speak funny. Don't talk to me. I can't understand you." And for the first time in my life, I felt excluded. There was something wrong with what I was saying. I couldn't get the words out. And if I could, nobody would listen. I had to change the way I spoke. Well, I spoke English. Over the years, when I was at school, I worked hard. The only issue was, at home, we spoke a different language. We spoke my Indian language. So it was a struggle. However, over the first 3 or 4 years, I was able to actually make very good progress. And I managed to really iron out a lot of issues that I had. However, at age of 11 or 12, I still had some issues on pronunciation. So, for example, welcome, not welcome, welcome. I was swapping my V's and see, I'm doing it there. My W's and V's were swapped around, just like I was speaking German. Then, can you imagine? I had to have a lot of willpower. Willpower? No, willpower. Different. And what actually, speaking German, what that actually taught me was that English was not a phonetic language, and you have to really work hard. So imagine when you're new to this country, new to England, and you're trying to say things like Salisbury or Siobhan. That's more Irish, actually. But you get the picture. Pronunciation is very difficult for a lot of people. And English is not phonetic. And sometimes there are silent endings, a bit like French. Sometimes there are all sorts of gobbledygook on the screen, and it's got nothing in the way of the way you pronounce the words. You have to work hard. You have to read books. You have to watch movies. You have to also speak to people. I raised my hand, asked for help, and I was able to get it from one or two of my teachers. I was lucky. What that meant was that I ended up pronouncing words better, increased my confidence. I was able to engage in more conversations as I grew in confidence. And also, I actually belonged with my friends. Some of the things in English were very, very easy for me, like the technical side of things, because I studied hard at it, whereas my friends struggled. However, what I struggled on was the slang, the cultural references, the TV that I'd missed for the first 8-10 years of my life. I didn't know who Bill and Ben were. Who knew? I had to work hard at learning the culture, but the way in which I learned was to immerse myself. So what did I learn from this? I learned that it's to do with mindset. I learned that English is not a phonetic language, but also I learned that I needed to speak more and more regularly with better speakers than myself. The people who taught me in Uganda spoke very good English, I thought, but it was different. It's not worse or better, but it's different. Same as what is taught in China, India, and other countries these days.
Yellow.
So what I do is I help people change the way they speak, the way they pronounce, the way they converse. And we do that in a number of different ways, using different exercises, even reading out news reports or magazines or doing fake interviews, all sorts of different ways to actually move on. The other thing I'm actually very good at, and which I help people with, is actually thinking about English. I get people to think in English, not their first language. It's very difficult. It can be hard at the start, but the more you practice, the more you can get on. And what that actually does is, so for example, Indian and Chinese students, they actually, giving a presentation, will try to give a lot of information. But you don't need that information. So I actually help them be more concise, get the right mindset, think about the English that they're speaking, and get to the point and stick to time. What I do is I help people make English easier. Click on the next link, come to my next video, sign up for my course. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Nick, for that very wonderful presentation. I don't know if I speak for everyone, but I certainly think everything sounds better in an English accent. So your speech is tremendous. Thank you very much. If you would like to share some feedback in the chat box, feel free to do so. But we're moving on to our second speaker tonight. Our second speaker is Dr. Jacinta Watkins-Lamontagne. Today, she is presenting a speech called Be Ready. Are you ready? Dr. Watkins will discuss how being ready will change your life. She will be presenting from the Persuasive Influence Pathway, level number 1. Mastering fundamentals, her icebreaker. Her speech time tonight is 4 to 6 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, be ready. Welcome, Dr. Jacinta Watkins Lamontagne.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Yes? Okay.
No.
No? Okay.
Mhm.
Let me get
I can hear you.
So I couldn't unmute fast enough.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let me go back. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay, I think we're good now. Yes?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Asil. Are you ready to be the green, yellow, and black Lamborghini that is in this picture? Are you ready to be ahead of everyone else in your life? My fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, today I'm going to share with you my story, why I decided to become a Toastmaster, and how you can learn a few tips to help you be ready for that next opportunity that may come your way. In the quaint mountains of North Carolina, there was a young child who wanted to be a forensic scientist so badly that she used to skip middle and high school dances to stay at home and watch shows about crimes and dead people. Does that sound like a normal child to you? Her parents didn't think so either. Ladies and gentlemen, that child was me. I was well on my career goal to become a forensic scientist. I'd applied for a position with the State Bureau of Investigation in North Carolina and waited for an interview. After the interview, I waited until the hair on my head started to turn gray, and I decided that, I probably should not continue going on with this. I ended up looking for another opportunity that was so very helpful, and it was in New Orleans, Louisiana. In New Orleans, I took a position as a forensic DNA technician. And literally, ladies and gentlemen, the day before I was supposed to move, I received the call from the State Bureau of Investigation, told me that I was going to be accepted into their position. And I was ready, but I couldn't actually go because I'd already had other plans. Once I moved to New Orleans, I decided that I was going to join a school. I ended up attending Tulane University and received my Master of Science in Public Health. While I was there, I learned a lot about being a student and about health disparities as it relates to the field of dentistry. Dentistry had the worst health disparities, and I decided that I did not want to become a dentist. Yeah, right. I want to do that. I want to help, but I don't want to be a dentist. And I decided to apply to dental school. During my application process, Hurricane Katrina made landfall, and I didn't have it. I already paid for my application fees, and I just did not have the funds to keep paying those fees. I called every school that I went to and said, please, can you in some way waive my application fees? And they told me no. The only school that told me yes was Howard University College of Dentistry. At Howard University College of Dentistry, that's where I learned about being a leader. I became president of my class and had the opportunity to speak to close to 80 students every single day, even on the weekends. And I had a desire that I wanted to be a better speaker, a better leader for them. I decided to join Toastmasters, and that's why I'm here today. Toastmasters was a wonderful experience for me while I was in dental school. And in dental school itself, I learned a lot. There were so many things that I learned that helped me tremendously during my time frame at the school. Those are a picture of my classmates that kept me busy. While I was in dental school, I had the opportunity to participate in a highly competitive externship with the American Dental Association. The association itself picked one of 2 students out of the entire country to participate as National Health Policy externs on Capitol Hill. So it was me and another person, and it was so much fun. I spent so much time on Capitol Hill. I was featured in the American Dental Association News, which is a huge honor because the externship was amazing. I had a chance to meet with so many different congressional leaders. One of the leaders that I did meet was, at the time, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and discuss options about junk foods that are in school and what type of impact not only do they have with their health, but they also have with their oral health as well, which is a tremendous experience that I had. I was ready, but I did not know that this opportunity would open up so many doors for my life. I was also featured on the cover of Howard University's magazine due to the highly competitive nature of the actual externship. It was a huge honor, and it was something that brought a lot of attention to the university, which is a great time in my life. I had the opportunity to use my Toastmasters experience to speak at my dental school graduation, and I was featured on a bus in Washington, D.C., all because I was ready for an opportunity that came my way. Now, I'm happily married to a wonderful man named Josue, and I have a 3-year-old boss baby that I have as well. And in terms of Toastmasters, my goal right now is to become a distinguished Toastmaster and to continue to be challenged in the Pathways process. Now, there's ways that you, ladies and gentlemen, can be ready for that next career goal that can change your life. First, you need to know yourself and know your goals. If you know what you want to do with your life, then you will be able to succeed. But be flexible. Sometimes things may not go the way you'd like for them to go. Another important tip is to be present and welcome new opportunities, because these opportunities can come out of nowhere, and you just have to be ready for it, ladies and gentlemen. Be ready. Speak and speak often, because being in Toastmasters, you're doing an amazing job speaking right now, and that will help you excel.
Good.
We've discussed being and knowing my story. We've also discussed how I became a Toastmaster and what you can do to be ready, because, ladies and gentlemen, knowing is half the battle, but you need to be ready. Mr. Tabletop, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jacinta. Thank you for sharing your story. It was a wonderful story. I always love hearing the origin story of a Toastmaster. And any presentation as a G.I. Joe slide is always top notch. So thank you so much for sharing. You're one of those Toastmasters since joining this club, I've been looking up to, because you have a great presentation, great way about you. So thank you for sharing that. And good luck in your new path as you start up your icebreaker. Oh, getting some feedback. Not sure if that's me or someone else. But anyhow, we're going to our speaker number 3. Those are 2 tough acts to follow, so I do not envy him at the moment. But I know he's ready to bring up his top game, because he's ready to give us a humorous speech. Our next speaker is Don Tiger McGandy. He is presenting from the Humorously Speaking, Make Them Laugh book. This will be Don's 7th speech towards his Advanced Communicator Gold. This is project number 3 from the Humorously Speaking manual. His speech time is 5 to 7 minutes. Coaching these days is all about winning, and that's sad. Don has coached high school soccer for 20 years, and the wins and losses fade. What remains are the relationships and the memories of individuals. Let me introduce to you Jordan Jacko. This is a humorous and inspiring story of a young man who overcame his physical and mental challenges to become a hero. Sit back and enjoy Jordo the Hero. Please welcome Don Tiger McGandy.
Jordan Jacko, affectionately known by everybody as Jordo, was the most inspirational young man I ever encountered during my coaching career. The first time I ever saw him, I was sitting in the park with several friends when all of a sudden we heard, ha ha, ha ha. And I looked up just in time to see this short teenage boy on a rainbow colored bicycle with his legs spread out, laughing at the top of his lungs as he went wailing down a very steep embankment. And as he went blasting by me, I noticed he was wearing a very large football helmet. And I thought to myself, now that's not something you see every day. Several weeks later, as I was getting ready for my first day of school, in walked a young man to my classroom. He had an enormous head, a huge gregarious smile, and he walked up to me and he said, "Hi, I'm Jordo. Give me a high five." For the next 4 years, I was greeted by that high five every morning before school. Now, Jordan wanted desperately to play soccer, but he could not get a physical release to do so. The reason that he had such a large head was he had a rare form of spinal bifida, and this had several negative side effects. Number one, the large head. His brain was constantly putting pressure against his skull, and he did not have a protective layer. Ergo, the large football helmet. That was his mom's way of trying to keep him safe while he was outside. It also created constant pain. So he couldn't play. I made him the team manager. His responsibility during home games was to keep track of the home game balls. So he would go out and deliver the game balls to the referees before the game. He'd walk out, he'd hand them the ball, he'd go, "Hi, I'm Jordo, high five." And of course, I always got a chuckle. During the home games, he would be circulating around the field trying to keep track of the balls, and he would high five anybody who would stand still long enough to get one. Over 4 years, he became quite a celebrity. Now, on our road trips, we were often on the bus for hours, and Jordo took it upon himself to entertain us. He had a whole repertoire of stupid jokes. One I would like to share with you now. This was his favorite. So the teacher asked Johnny, "Can you please use the word geometry in a sentence?" So Johnny responded, "An acorn grew, and it grew, and it grew. One day it said, geometry." I will spare you any other jokes because there are hundreds. Before each game, the team would circle around Jordo, and he would raise his hand, and he would go, "Bulldogs rock!" And then everyone would stick their hand in, and they'd go, "Go, fight, win." Well, the last home game is dubbed senior night. It was a very meaningful night. Parents of the seniors are ushered onto the field, and then their senior is welcome, and he comes out and he'll give his mom flowers and his dad a hat. Now, when Jordo was introduced, he ran out, he gave his mom flowers, he gave his dad the hat. "High five, I love you guys." And his mom broke down and cried hysterically. You see, she had confided in me a number of times that she didn't even expect Jordo to live to be 18, much less experience something like this. During the 4 years I knew him, and I saw him every day before school and often after school, I never once ever heard him complain. And I know for a fact that he dealt with severe pain every day, always was smiling. The last game went very well for us. And with about 15 minutes left, I subbed out all 10 of my seniors and put in the reserves. Well, as I'm standing coaching my reserves, I get a nudge on the back of my shoulder. And I turn around, and there's Jordo, decked out in a goalie jersey with gloves and pants and even cleats. And my team captain looked at me and pleaded, "Please, coach, put him in the game. This is his last chance to play." Well, I can give you at least a dozen reasons right now why that was a really bad idea. But at the time, I got caught up, and so I put him in the game. Unfortunately, the ball stayed on our end of the field, and Jordo was not involved. However, with time winding down, one of the players on the other team dribbled into our end of the field and took a shot on goal from about 30 yards out. There was a collective sigh over the whole stadium. Jordo reached up, caught the ball, and then stuck it over his head triumphantly and had that huge smile on his face. Just then, the referee blew his whistle to indicate the end of the game. What happened next was the absolute best part of my coaching career. All 10 of the seniors rushed the field. They went to the goal and they lifted Jordo up on their shoulders. And they began to march him off the field chanting, "Jordo, Jordo, Jordo." And here's this kid trying frantically to hold on to the ball, getting bounced around, and he's laughing hysterically. Ha ha, ha ha. And as they're yelling, "Jordo, Jordo," the whole crowd got into it. I have never seen a human being exhibit more joy. Jordo was loved by many, and he was respected by many. As he went off the field, I thought in my head, Jordo, the conquering hero. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Don. What a great speech. Go Jordo. Thank you for sharing that. Don, the 2 speeches I've seen you present, you're a great storyteller, so keep up the great work. If you have any feedback that you would like to give any of our speakers, make sure you provide it in the chat box. Send them some direct messages. Let them know how they can improve or things that you liked about their speech. At this point, I would like to ask Asil, our timer, for the time report for our 3 speakers to see if our speakers qualify for voting.
Nick, 7 minutes and 28 seconds. Jacinta, 6 minutes and 37 seconds. And Tiger, 7 minutes and 3 seconds. I think Jacinta went over, right?
Yes, Jacinta went over by 7 seconds and she was doing an icebreaker. So please vote for the best speaker, either Nick or Don Tiger McCandy. Send your vote to our vote counter tonight being done by, remind me, Ms. Antoinette Trim. So make sure you send a direct message to Antoinette. At this point, it is my pleasure and honor to move the meeting over to the second part of our agenda, which is table topics. Table topics is the impromptu speaking section of the meeting. I like to say that impromptu speaking is the most common public speaking you'll probably do in your lifetime, whether it's that job interview or networking session, or maybe even your first date. Well, tonight, Jim from the barbershop, Barber, will be presenting table topics. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As Topics Master, I found in past times, many times, that the biggest problem that beginning Toastmasters have with table topics is that they think that they have to answer the question correctly, whereas they don't. All they have to do is answer the question. Consequently, I don't think I'm going to have that problem with this group, but just in case, we'll see. The questions that I'm going to ask do not have a correct answer. So you're in trouble if that's what you're trying to do. You'll see what I'm talking about as we get into it. What we're going to be doing is discussing, I recognize that probably everybody here is already aware of it, but just in case some people aren't, we're going to be discussing the quaint country of online Toasties land. Online Toasties land, of course, has a long and dignified history, but we're going to be talking about it a bit tonight. And we're going to start. I want you to give me before we do that, Asil, would you please remind our speakers tonight how long they have for table topics?
2 minutes. Green will be 1 minute. Yellow, 1 minute and 30 seconds. And red, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Asil. I knew that, but I'd just like to hear you talk. All right. Our first question, I want you to give me a National Geographic type description in general, in 1 to 2 minutes. Tell me about the country of Online Toasties Land. Andy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Topic Master. The land of Toasties is characterized by a group of individuals sitting in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on an island with palm trees, coconuts falling. The time of day seems to last forever. Everyone's having a great time, comfortable, and we pass our time primarily by telling stories, historical stories about the land of Toasties. Everyone has great imagery, everyone has great stories, and we spend our day, every day, hearing about those that came before us, those that are still on the island in the land of Toasties. Other topics may be on survival. Where's the next meal coming from? How long do we wait for the coconut to fall down? What do we do for sunscreen? These are the things that spend most of our day in between the stories that are told by all those on Toasty Land. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Andy. And now I chose this, it's probably everybody's already aware of this, but April the 29th, today, is the most significant national holiday of Online Toasties Land. So would you please tell us why April 29th is such a national holiday? What are they celebrating? What are the quaint members of Online Toasties holiday, Online Toasties Land, what are they celebrating? How are they celebrating it? Elaine.
Greetings, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Well, April 29th is celebrated by the Online Toasties Land group. This is actually a culinary group that celebrates things related to toasted food. And April 29th is actually when Texas toast emerged as a great favorite item of culinary interest. Now, in this particular group, every year on April 29th, there is collected from not only in Texas, but throughout the world, recipes for Texas toast. The most favorite recipe for Texas toast that was remarked about last year was Texas toast that was like a French toast, battered with crushed cornflake crumbs, fried, and then sprinkled with cinnamon. How does that sound, folks? Anyway, please remember, Texas toast first became known on April 29th, and that's how the Texas Toasties celebrate this every year. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Elaine. Again, I really hesitate to repeat the obvious, but Flugelball. Everybody's heard of course, football, both types, American football and real football. But in Online Toasties Land, the national sport that everybody goes crazy about is Flugelball. Assuming that there was somebody that didn't know what Flugelball was, would you tell us exactly what the game of Flugelball entails? Rolando.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Masters, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. Flugelball is when all of us Toastmasters come together and try to practice our voices, our speaking skill. We go and toss the ball back to each other. We'll go to speakers, different speakers. We go through the table topics. We'll go through the evaluators. This way, we all keep passing the balls back and forth to each other, so we all get a turn to play the game. Because if we don't play the game, then we're not gonna be able to improve our practices and skills. The more we pass the ball, the more we play with the ball, the better we're gonna get. Eventually, we'll be able to control the ball and be able to control ourselves and direct the ball to where we want the ball to go. Therefore, the more we practice, the more we come and do what we have to do as Toasties, we use the ball and do whatever we need to do, then we have full control and we'll be able to master the skills. And when we do go to a different club and we're gonna be toasted again, then we'll be able to adjust ourselves and be able to do what we need to do on the spot. Back to you, Mr. Deputy Master.
Thank you, Rolando. And now, Mike Woodall. I recall from the introductions that you're a guest. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Well, how about now?
Hey, I can hear you now. Are you
Can you
still
hear me now?
Are you a guest?
Yes, I am.
That means that you have the option of choosing to participate in table topics or not. Would you like a question?
Well, I'm kind of shy and scared. But
You're all,
go ahead.
All right, you got it then.
Make it a softball.
Hey, you got it. Not a problem. Because, of course, Online Toasties Land is a tourist mecca. It is everybody always has a desire to visit Online Toasties Land. What would you advise somebody, a tourist going to Online Toasties Land for the first time? What quaint sights would you advocate that they see?
Well, one of the most unique things about Toasties Land is it is the very first Toastmasters club online that is designed around those who've suffered injustice. So there's millions and millions of people around the world who have suffered injustice. Our prison systems are full of people who've been falsely accused, imprisoned for something that never happened. There are people who've gone suffering, and so Toasties is about bringing all those who suffered injustice to hear their story and to help them move through their injustice and to speak about creating a world worth having on the other side of the fire of this injustice. So I was proud to be a part of the charter club. Toasties is what we typically call it. And I'm just real happy to present the Toasties original charter birthday today to you. Thank you, Mr. Topic Master.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Mr. Toastmaster, I believe we have time for one more question. Okay, great. In that case, let's go intellectual. Describe the economy. What are the principal imports and exports of Online Toasties Land, the currency, all things financial? Roger.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. In this Toasty Land, the currency is shells. We would use shells that we would find whenever somebody used an ah or an and it would fall from the sky. We'll catch them and collect them, and the more you collect, the richer you get. But at the same time, when you do odds and ums, those shells will disappear from your pocket and you can't use them anymore. Now, part of the economy of what we do with these shells is to trade with one another, because each one of us have skills. Each one of us have products and services that we can offer. And we use those currencies to purchase and to exchange things that we ourselves may not be able to do. For example, when I need a funny story, I go trade with Tiger. When I need a presentation, to learn more about English, I go to Nick. But of course, if I need to figure out and come up with a brand new sport in 2 seconds, I go to Rolando. Because this is a place, in order for us to make this economy run, it is to pull something out of the bag and to make it sound like we know what we're talking about. So in this place, this is the place where we become creative. And as we become more creative, we become quaint with everything that we have to offer. Therefore, it is my privilege and it is my honor, Mr. Table Topic Master, to announce to the world, this is Toasty Land. Back to you, Mr. Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Roger. And now, Madam Timera Sill, would you tell us, please, if every one of our speakers qualified?
Yes, Mr. Tabletop Master, yes.
Thank you very much. Would you please cast your votes for your favorite Table Topics response tonight, either Andy, Elaine, Rolando, Mike, or Roger, and pass those notes confidentially to Antoinette. And if you will please do that, I will return control to our Toastmaster of the Day, first-time Toastmaster of the Day. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is, Jason. I'm sorry, moved around on me. Jason.
I'm here, haven't left. You haven't kicked me out yet, so I must be doing a good job. But thank you, Jim. You're always a great speaker and really entertaining. That was a really fun Table Topics. Thank you for being so creative with your time. We now move to the third section of our meeting, which is the evaluation portion of our section. We heard 3 excellent speakers, so we should hear 3 excellent evaluations, don't you think? To help us run the evaluation portion of our meeting, let me welcome our general evaluator this evening, our president and presidente, Jim Dent. Give a round of applause for Jim Dent. Virtual round of applause.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
As everybody's noticed, I've labeled myself as the quaint evaluator. I figured I'd call myself quaint because I'm definitely old, and I have fashion, and I'm unusually attractive. I think that fits the definition of quaint. So my first thing I'll do is I'll call on our functionaries tonight for their reports. And we'll have the timer run down through the timing. Actually, I'm going to do that after the evaluators. I'm sorry. I want to call on our evaluators first. Our first evaluator is Lois Margolin, and she is evaluating Nick Lahani's speech. Are you ready, Lois?
I am. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and most especially Nick. This was a speech where Nick was reworking a previous speech, and he had some items that were evaluated he had to work on and look to see whether or not he wanted to make any changes. Speaking English made easy. The first thing I really enjoyed about this speech, Nick, is the fact that you set us up. You told us that we were a potential customer. We knew that you wanted somebody who wanted to learn how to do pronunciation, learn conversational English, and also the English business and technology English. I enjoyed that. I thought you did a really good job with that. You had phenomenal hand motions. He does this thing where he comes up very slow, and I'm a little too fast, but he comes up slow and he moves his hands and he does stuff with it. He comes back down and it looks so professional. I'm like, I need to learn how to do that because my hands go too fast. One of the things they had mentioned in his previous evaluation was that he had green screen distraction. Well, I got to tell you, I love the welcome and the willpower, and I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed how you used the screen. And it was seamless. It came just right in there as if you had been doing this all along. You had a strong opening. That was also a comment on your previous evaluation. I like the fact that you took us through your childhood and how you grew up in Uganda and got us to the point of why is speaking English so important to you? it's more important to you than probably those of us that speak English here because of what you went through and how the children treated you when you went to school. I love the fact that you're bringing in your upbringing to actually teach history and teach stories for people that want to learn this. A couple of other things that were noted in your previous evaluation is no notes. I didn't see you using any notes. I didn't see you doing anything like this. There was no reflection, anything like that. It felt very fluid. It felt like you did a good job. A couple of things that I would work on. Every now and then when you have to stop and think, you squint. And you know, we're thinking. Beware of the squint. You were also commented on your earlier evaluation about a strong opening, and I thought you had that strong opening, but you also were commented on your vocal variety and your ending. And this is where I think you could really nail this speech. Your speech is very monotone, which is okay, but if you're selling yourself, when you're ready to sell yourself, get out there and really sell it. I help people change the way they speak. I give them fake interviews. I have practice sessions. I have them think in English. If you want to learn more about this, click on the link, sign up for the next course, and that, my friend, will take this speech to the next level and have people signing up. Loved your speech. Thought you did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lois. Our next evaluator is Lou Brown, who is evaluating Chiquita's speech. Where's Lou at? There you are. You ready, Lou?
I am, Mr. General Evaluator. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. GE, fellow Toastmasters. Welcome, guests. And Jacinta, great title, Be Ready. And I have to tell you, I was not ready for that incredible presentation. You had some great variety. Thank you for that. You gave us a bio, a story, some really great visuals, and at the end, some Be Ready tips. I really appreciated that. Your slides, well put together. You included some images and a bit of readable text. I have to say, I've seen many presentations where folks include very tiny text and a ton of it, and I just zone out whenever I see that stuff. So thank you for your very well put together slides. Great vocal pitch and clarity. I could hear you very clearly and understand every word you said. Sometimes, especially with online presentations, it can be hard because sometimes technical issues, but other times our mouth may move away from the microphone. There may be other things, but your setup was perfect. However, I did find your pace to be a bit quick. I had a little bit of trouble keeping up with my notes, and I missed some things because you were speaking a little too quickly for me. So I do suggest maybe you slow down a bit, take a breath, especially at key opportunities. Like, for example, when you showed your face on the bus, great opportunity. Just take a breath there and tell folks, check me out, folks. Hey, you're not going to see one of those in a while. I have to say, boy, what a career goal change you chose from forensic scientist to dentist. That's very interesting. And that explains why you have such incredibly straight teeth and pearly whites, because when I blew up your picture so that I could really get a better evaluation. I was like, holy cow, what a great smile and white teeth. I'm so jealous. Of course, if you did stay in the forensic scientist path, you might have your own TV show right now. We call it Forensic Files with Dr. J. How's that sound? Thank you for sharing those incredible accomplishments you had from being selected to be an extern, which is so funny. I've never heard of that word. I've always heard of intern. I've never heard of extern. So it makes sense that that kind of word would exist. And meeting Harry Reid, to being featured in the AMA Journal, and of course, being featured on the bus. You did ask me about commenting a little bit on your hand gestures. I only caught a few. They weren't bad at all, but you did have some opportunities to include a few more. For example, and one of them I think was a bit awkward when you said, yeah, right, and with one of your phrases, I saw you go like this, which was more like a PU than a yeah, right. Yeah, right would be yeah, right, going forward. And the other thing is when you mentioned that you met Harry Reid, I would have gone, can you believe it? Harry Reid! For those folks who love Harry Reid, of course. The other folks would be like, can you believe it? Harry Reid. I know the other thing is eye contact. Oh, I see the red coming on. I'm going to wrap this up real quickly. Dr. J, overall great speech. Thank you for sharing everything. And we are all ready for your next speech, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lou. And our last evaluator will be Tracy, who is evaluating Tiger's speech. Are you ready, Tracy?
I am. I have my volume on and everything. Wow. A humorous speech about a boy who has spina bifida. Does anybody other than me get the dichotomy in that? Tiger, fellow Toastmasters, guests, that was an incredible story. It was extremely heartwarming. I feel as though I knew Jordy. The visuals, the imagery, the opening story about this great big noise that was like a laugh and him riding down the street on his rainbow bicycle with not just a helmet, but a football helmet on. I don't think I'm going to forget that anytime soon. Super heartwarming story, Tiger. It was clear. You had fantastic vocal variety. You maintained tremendous eye contact. And your gestures were fantastic. I love the part where suddenly I realized that you were standing up and you turned your whole entire profile to us to replicate part of the story. I think that you were on the playing field at that time. The visuals that you gave us of Jordy high-fiving throughout were really fantastic because I felt as though those high fives were a literal thread throughout the entire story. One of the things that you asked me to make a special note of was how comfortable and confident you seemed while you were telling the stories and the jokes. I felt that you were very comfortable with your material. You clearly knew Jordy. You clearly knew your experience inside out and how you embraced Jordy and how you were able to convey that and share that with us. Although you were comfortable telling the jokes, there was a moment that I was wondering if there was a bit of an awkward silence, not just a plain silence, but an awkward silence after the geometry joke. In order to make it even more lighthearted, I would consider doing something like something silly, just to break up that awkwardness that I believe I felt, and I'm not sure how many people felt that. The other part of this evaluation that I would like to talk about is that the point that endeared me so much to your story about making it lighthearted as you made it, as you told the story about a boy with spina bifida, is the fact that it was a story about a boy with spina bifida that you were making lighthearted. I would totally try to do a humorous story that maybe wasn't quite so heavy so that the stories were more jokes than stories. I just wanted to make sure that I got that point across and shared it with everybody. Otherwise, this was a tremendously wonderful story about a gut-wrenching topic. Thank you for sharing that with us, Tiger.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Now I'm going to call on our functionaries. So first I'll call on our timer to give the overall timer report, including the evaluators. And when you get the timing for the evaluators, please vote on the best evaluator. Who's our timer? Asil?
Yes, evaluators, Luis, sorry, 3 minutes and 14 seconds, Lou, 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and Tracy, 3 minutes and 49 seconds. And table topic speakers, Andy, 1 minute and 10 seconds, Elaine, 1 minute and 25 seconds, Rolanda, 1 minute and 27 seconds, Mike, 1 minute and 20 seconds, Roger, 2 minutes. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did all 3 evaluators qualify?
I think Tracy, 3 minutes and 49 seconds, she was over. And
Okay, then vote for the best evaluator, either Lois or Lou Brown. Please. And next I'll call on our next functionary, which is the awe counter, Mike Walsh.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to report I counted a total of 7 ahs for everybody, including me in my introduction. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. Our next functionary is our grammarian, and that is, who was our grammarian? Oh, that is Joy.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Everybody used clear, understandable language using full sentences. There were a couple of people used the word of the day, quaint, and they were Jim Barber, Jimmy Dent, and Roger. And then there were also in the chat box Tiger, Roger, and Jimmy using the quaint. And I have to say about this word that it's one of those words in the English language that I would never use, because it's a word that can mean both something negative and something positive, and I would never know which one it is. And there are tons of words in English language like that. I don't know how you can handle it. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Our next functionary is our watcher, John Quick.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I had extensive private conversations that were nice tonight with a few people. And the big lesson is that lighting is very important. For my personal green screen, I put lights on each side of it to get us a evenly lit room. And another thing that we all deal with a different office or home environment. So it just takes a lot of testing to figure out what's the best way to set up my lights. Do I have ceiling lights? Do I have windows? Do I have all my artificial lights? It's just something we all have to experiment with. And it does take some time. It's not easy to set up. But at least one advice I have is one light for you at least, and then one light on each side of the screen. That'll give you for your background, even lighting. So there's a good starting point. Other than that, you really have to tweak it and do it yourself. Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you, John. And our next functionary is our chat monitor. And that is Jim Barber. Is that right? Or we switched
Andy
it?
Byrne.
Andy Byrne. Okay, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I think the club was very effective in using the chat monitoring feature very appropriately. They had the timer information was there. There were some other comments that were there complimenting the speakers. But for the most part, people were concentrating on the speakers and what they had to deliver. There was not a lot of distraction or side comments that we see in the chat, but it was used very well in terms of listing people and knowing the times for qualification as people voted for the various positions. It's the end of my report.
Good, thank you. Okay, now I'll get an evaluation of our evaluators, a brief evaluation of each one. First, I'll start with Lois. I liked, Lois, that you started off by explaining the purpose of Nick's speech, why he was giving it, that it's a second speech, and some of the objectives. That's always a good reminder for everybody when you first start to give the evaluation of speech, so they kind of recall the introduction material or why they're giving the speech and what it's about. I also like that you made a mention of him squinting. I noticed that also watching him. I wasn't sure what was causing that. And I like your suggestion about his being a little monotone and needed to do more vocal variety. What I liked about it specifically was you gave the example instead of just saying it. It's really important to give the example of what you're telling somebody to improve on. So you did an excellent job of giving that example of using vocal variety and how to use it. Next, I'm going to talk about Lou Brown's evaluation of Chiquinta's speech. I like what you did was start off definitely with what was great about the speech. You listed several things. So that fits into the sandwich method. And then you got into the improvements, the pace, the gestures, and vocal varieties. And you also gave some examples of that. So you demonstrated how she could use that more effectively. And last, I'll give an evaluation of Tracy's evaluation. I like you start off with first talking about what you thought was great and how you felt Tiger seemed comfortable with what he was talking about. I also like how you talked about at the end about how he took a very serious topic of spinal bifida and made it lighthearted. And he wasn't making jokes about the disease, but just lighthearted stories about the person. And so it wasn't disrespectful, but it made us more aware of everything, that diseases can be lighthearted. I have a friend that's going through cancer problems right now, and we're trying to keep her spirit up, and she's trying to be lighthearted also. I liked your suggestions also about how to maybe end the jokes, because there was a little bit of a silence that there when he gave a joke, and maybe doing something in a little verbal ta-da or something with the joke could add a little bit more lighthearted and fill that little blank up a little bit. So that was great. Now, one of the things I want to pass on to you, and some of you might be thinking, why did I stand up? One is to stretch my legs because I'm still at the office. But when I was at the District 7 conference, I attended a educational session on appearing on video. And I picked up a tip that I thought was applicable to the online clubs, and it is. The tip was if you stand up to give a speech like I'm standing right now, gestures tend to be more natural. Where when you're sitting down, you put your hands on your desktop or someplace, and then gestures become forced. And you're not making gestures that are more just natural gestures as you talk and speak. So it's something to think about in the future, if you can stand up. Now, I noticed that with Tiger. Tiger was standing up for his speech, and his gestures appeared much more natural and more obvious. Sometimes he stood back farther to get the gestures to be more noticeable. Other times he got in a little closer and got more sensitive with the gestures. So it's something we could all practice. It's not mandatory, but we could practice that to make our gestures more obvious and noticeable.
Unexpected rain. Just be advised.
I just stopped for a second because I'm at the office and there was an announcement over the phone. Okay.
Looks like we have some unexpected rain. Just Be advised.
They tell us they're calling for some unexpected heavy rain coming in a few minutes. So the meeting was great tonight. We started on time. We got introductions. Most people were here ahead of time for the meet and greet. That was great. That's always good to see everybody so we can verify the functionaries and the speakers and evaluators and make any switches on the roles if we have to switch around anybody in trade-off. So that's my general evaluation report. And right now I'll turn it back over to our Toastmaster, Jason.
Great. Thank you so much for that great general evaluation. I really enjoyed your comments towards our three evaluators. Many times you don't hear feedback about our evaluation. So to hear some of your great feedback was an excellent choice. I only have one duty left tonight, and that is to do the role to announce the winners. So I'd like to ask Antoinette to unmute herself. We'll give it a virtual drum roll. I don't want to have all the feedback. But Antoinette, please get off mute. And who won our best table topics?
Roger.
Roger Fung, congratulations, best table topics. And who was our best evaluator?
Louis Mangolin.
Lois, congratulations, Lois, evaluator extraordinaire. And last but not least, we're all waiting to see and unveil the winner of Best Speaker. Tiger. Congratulations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed your evening tonight. We had a wonderful meeting, and my job as Toastmaster is done. I know, don't cry or sob. There'll be another meeting one day where I'll be back. But I want to control the meeting to our president, Mr. Jim Dent.
Okay, thank you. You did a great job tonight, Jason. Excellent as Toastmaster. Should have mentioned that in my general evaluation thing. I liked your style, and you were very well informed and had everything organized. Well, at this point, we'd like to hear from our guests. Mike Woodall is the second-time guest tonight. Are you on, Mike? Could you comment about the meeting tonight? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I really enjoyed the meeting, my second one in a row, and I look forward to the other meetings. And I look forward to joining this club real soon.
Oh, great. You're definitely welcome to join the club.
All right. And I hope the initiation portion isn't that hard on me.
No, you just have to walk through a gauntlet. It's not very difficult online. Let's see. Do we have any other guest here? Is Harry Rama, are you a guest?
Yeah. Jimmy, hi, everyone. Good evening. It's evening for me. I really enjoyed the meeting. I've been into some of the Toastmasters meetings live, so I really appreciate. I never thought of having such a very interacting online session. It was really great, and I know that there is a lot of efforts has been gone into that only it is possible. Thanks a lot, everyone. It was really good.
Great. Oh, I hope to see you again.
Yeah, I will be there.
Come back.
Sure.
Okay. Deborah Spears appears to have dropped off. And Rainey is here. Is Rainey, does anybody know if Rainey is a member or a guest? She's a guest?
Rainey is a guest.
Are you on, or can you speak up and tell us what you thought of our meeting tonight?
Rainey has not been able to connect in her vocal for the last few weeks, so I will leave
I
it
think
at
she
that
had
for the
trouble with that
moment.
before.
And if Rainey, just to let you know, you are welcome to our club to continue to visit, and we look forward to actually hearing your voice and seeing your face too. And Jimmy, I will take this opportunity to take over for a few seconds because I have a quick announcement to make. Is that, hold on just one sec. I would like to share very quickly that next week we will be taking a vote of our next term's officer beginning in July till June. It's an annual term. I'd like to present to you I am the chair of the nomination committee. I'd like to nominate these individuals who have stepped up, who have agreed to accept this nomination. We got Lois as president, VP Education John Quick, VP Membership Elaine, VP Public Relations Jacinta, Secretary Monica, Treasurer David, Sergeant at Arms Lou. Between now and next week at the meeting, if any one of you would like to nominate others to take on any of these roles, you can feel free to connect with me. Between now and then, I will make another call at the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, before we take a vote for our next term's officers. With that said, I will turn our time back to our president.
Thank you. It's a great list. Lois, you got something to say?
I do. I want to make an official apologies to Harry because I forgot to change my welcome letter to say 7:45, which is why he came on late. I am so sorry about that. I will change that first thing in the morning.
It's fine.
Oh,
Thank you.
you too, Mike. I missed you too. I'm sorry, guys. Didn't even realize it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
Well, I saw